Hey guys, I'm building a Dirty 30 Sedan Model A, and there weren't a lot of good movies out there that I could find on the sedan for building frames and whatnot, so I'm gonna show you the ropes on it from what I know and what I've learned. So one thing you want to consider when doing this is if you do have an old Model A frame, rolling chassis, a couple of things that you want to think about is you probably should box in the frame on that old Model A frame. It's going to take some time to clean that up and get it looking good. I kind of decided to not use the old frame. I have a whole rolling chassis and whatnot because when you're putting a V8 in something, you're putting a lot more horsepower and you need more stopping power. There's a lot more flex. So you would be wise to do what I did and just purchase a couple lengths of boxed steel, 4-inch by 2-inch, and it's super easy to make a frame. So I just highly recommend that. They're stronger, you'll be able to do more with them, and I think it'll be a lot less work. It will be. I originally took the measurements for my frame from my rolling chassis Model A that I have. I decided not to go with it because I would have to box the frame in. It was just simply a lot easier for me to make my own frame. It would be a lot sturdier and stronger, and I could make it to the length I needed. But I took the measurements from this frame for my own. That was the easiest way to do it. I'm sure there's plenty of online plans for you to go by. I just happen to have this frame from the body that I bought, so that's what I went by. Okay, so all you really need is a flat surface. What I did is my garage floor, I took a level to it to see how level it was, and it was dead on. So I got lucky there. So that's what I'm using as my frame table. Most guys like us, the DIYers, you know, we're hot rodders, old Cadillac. We don't have frame tables and stuff laying around, and it wouldn't make sense for us to build one unless we're gonna do it all the time. So all I did was level the floor out. I took my 10-foot rails, I cut them out on the side and bent the rails in, just so I can make the frame just like the original 30 frame was. So when you weld them together and get your bends correct, the easiest way I found to do was cut your boards, put it in between them, use these clamps, clamp them down on each side. Then when you do your cut, you can pull them in easy while using your tape measure. Helps to have another guy here to give you a hand. I found it pretty easy, a pretty simple way to do it. This thing is square as square can get. So some of the other things you can do when doing all this basically is just to take this tape measure and make as many measurements as you can. So what I did was I marked 4 feet down from the end on each side of my pieces of the rail. Okay. Then I made my cuts, to bend in the sides. And all you got to do is cross measure to each point on here so that you're dead on, which is dead on corner to corner with this. So then you take and measure same thing from the front to your point right here. Same thing on the other side. Okay. I ended up tacking just a little piece of square stock I had on the front of this thing. And I had another one in the rear here, right here, all the way across. Tacked it in when I had everything perfect. So now I'm just working on putting in my rear piece here. And then after that, when I finish rebuilding my rear end, I'm gonna put the white wall tires on it. And then I'm gonna make my rise to how I want my Model A to sit. I'm gonna channel it 4 inches. And I'm gonna also Z this frame in the front. So it's gonna be low, it's not gonna have air or anything like that. Although I would like to have it, but you don't have a lot of room in these things. I've got some metal work to do in here yet. Other than that, it's in pretty good shape. One thing you want to do when you cut the side of the rail is you're going to extremely weaken it. You cut in the top, bottom, and side, and you're never going to get the welds strong enough to hold them. I would highly recommend that you put a plate, at least on the one side that you cut, and then a plate on the top and the bottom. We're going to be channeling this rig anyways, so you're not going to see any of that, and it's for added strength. Also, if you Z the rear like I'm going to, because this Model A is going to sit pretty low, you want to get as least flex as possible out of this. So there's going to be a lot more, cross bracing and going on here with my 4-link and whatnot, and transmission mount and stuff. So just another suggestion. Okay, well, I cut my frame. I had it all laid out real nice. I did all my measurements. I would highly suggest that you measure the inside of your body and see where everything's gonna pan out. I got everything down to where the door jamb is. Looks like I'm gonna be sitting about 8 inches back from the door. I went along, marked out where my trans mounts were gonna be, the front, and then the firewall, the engine mount to the front of the engine. I think that's just the best route to go. Then I went in here into my Model A and I measured out, here's the door jamb. I measured out where that post would come up on the frame. And then I also marked out in back here where my axle is gonna be. You can see the marks back there. Probably a good idea to do that. So now I'm going to take this, I cut them at a 45 so that I can come straight down off of here with my drop. And my frame is gonna sit about 8 inches off the ground. So it's just good to do all of your measurements before you get going on this stuff. Make sure that you weld in some steel and brace everything up to where you had it, just like I did here in the rear. Just makes things a lot easier when you go to weld them back together. I also threw one in the front here as well. So haven't put my front end on yet. Just got that from a buddy. So once I get the frame set up in the rear, I will be figuring out where I'm gonna put my 4D front end here. I've got it tacked together. I've got my bends all done, just like the original Model A frame. I used a regular Model A frame to get my measurements of how I want my frame to be. So if you have that option, it's a great option to have. So I welded everything up, I tacked it and braced it. Right now, I set it up so that I can finish cutting my Z rails that are gonna go from the bottom to the top. I've got everything all zeroed in. I would highly suggest to spend $30 to get one of these digital levels because they're awesome. They get right down to it. And how I got this thing so level sitting on here my little trick is just to cut a wood wedge in there and adjust it until everything is level. So I cut these, basically I used regular tools that I had at home. Just cut them with a wheel, my 45s. Got the other piece over on the bench that I'm gonna cut. So basically all I did was I measured from here to there, got my height, and then I can cut my 45s. It's pretty simple actually, it just takes a little time to set up and make sure you have everything set. I'll readjust everything I use my concrete floor that's really level. Basically my car is gonna sit off the ground 8 inches, which that's about 8.5 inches. Figured to add a little bit on for the weight. But I can also adjust that as I get further down the road, if it needs to come up or down. Because probably one of the last things I'm gonna do on this frame is put my rear coilovers in. Right now I just have a couple pieces of square stock welded on to get my ride height. I could cut another section of this, put it right up on top, and then cut that out and weld it all in just to get that frame sitting a little lower, but I don't see the point in that because I'm using this space back here to put my fuel tank in, which is gonna be that keg of beer over there. So that'll fit nicely in there, and go from there. So just wood blocks to get it up to ride height where I want it. Took my measurements, gonna cut my rails for the height, weld them in, and eventually I'm gonna get to this front end here. I picked up a front section for 50 bucks, so I've got the horns. I've got one on my original frame that I have sitting outside, but I don't really want to cut that up. I want to sell it as a rolling chassis. So that's pretty much it, guys. Pretty simple to do. Not much to it. You can do it right at home with your basic tools.